5 underrated horror films that I think deserve more love and they are guaranteed to give you the chills. And in one case, they will give you nightmares for the rest of your life. You'll never sleep in a tent again. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sinead. This is my spooky corner of YouTube where I talk about spooky books, spooky films and spooky things in general that I have seen. And sometimes there's cats and crows. Today I'm giving a rundown of 5 horror films that I absolutely loved, but I don't see as many people talking about them as they do some of the big mainstream horrors that come out every single year. These are films that surprised me, that scared me, that moved me, and I really wish that they got more love universally. Quick housekeeping. These films I have selected because I like them based on my preferences. I think they're good, they worked for me. Your opinions on them may differ, and that's fine. All I ask is that if you do have a different perspective on this film, if you didn't like it and I loved it, don't be personal in the comments to anyone by saying you're wrong by liking this. Oh no, I can't understand why people didn't. You're very welcome to offer a different debate and a different perspective on films, but just try not to be personal. I'm not saying anything with the intention of hurting someone's feelings. I just really like these films. Underrated, I know. Some of you out there will have heard of these films. You already know that they're really good. They're big in your circle because maybe you and your friends talk about them all the time and you'll go, how could they possibly be underrated in your opinion? These are films that whether or not people in the world think they're good and have discovered them, they haven't gotten the mass marketing of some of the really big horror films, so that just naturally means they won't necessarily have shown up on some people's radars. But I think they are worth your time. You may have different feelings on them, but I think they'll provoke a reaction and they'll make you want to talk about them. That's usually my mark of a good horror film. In all cases, I'll give you information of where I saw this film, but you probably will need to Google it in your own region to see where it is available and if it is available for free or for rent on different streaming platforms. First up, The Invitation 2015. This was free to watch as part of an Amazon subscription for me in the UK. Let me be clear, I'm talking about The Invitation that came out in 2015, not the film The Invitation that came out in 2022. The 2022 version is a vampire story and it's completely over the top. It's not good, but it's got some quite nice vibes in it. I'll give it that. It's got vibes, but it's terrible. I'm not advocating for that, but feel free to watch it. I mean, it's an afternoon. The 2015 film The Invitation is one of my most recommended psychological horror films that I tell everyone, please watch it. Please sit and watch it, enjoy it. This is also a very good film that bridges a lot of genres and could appeal to anyone who likes a thriller, a psychological drama. If you like a horror, I think The Invitation will tick a lot of boxes. This is the story of a man, Will, who with his new girlfriend has been invited to dinner at his ex-wife's house. She and her new husband have invited them and a bunch of friends over for dinner. Will and his ex-wife share a tragedy. It becomes apparent in the beginning that they have lost a child that they had together, but they have come to the dinner party to be sociable, to see their old friends, to just try and have a good time. Will is clearly very affected by the breakup and the loss of his child, as you can understand. But when they arrive at this dinner party, he finds that his ex-wife and her new husband are very happy, very settled, and they're talking about an experience that they had recently that they want to share with their friends. And their friends learn about this and they have some questions. That's all I will say about the film going into it. Trigger warnings, this film does open with an incidence of roadkill with a coyote. You don't see it on screen, but you know what happens, and I don't want that to put people off the film. If you find that triggering, I'm just warning you. This is a slow burn film at first because it is all about the interactions of the people in this household. There are moments of quiet as Will is looking around his former home, the place where his child grew up, the conversations he has with other people. The dialogue in this is very well done. It's very well scripted. I felt that it's quite realistic with the different nuances of the friends in this group. But what turns into a quite sinister evening with this invitation that they've all brought to the house, and what is it that the ex-wife wants to tell all their friends about? It is a very tense evening. There's great interplay and tension between the characters, with friendships, with past grievances, what is emerging and what are people saying to each other, which could be informed by their past trauma or what is really going on at this dinner party. You are left wandering back and forth what is actually happening in this household. It is played out with such gentle, quiet menace that escalates and goes in places. I absolutely adored this film. I think this is a great example of psychological horror. It is a really great thriller. People will talk to you about the ending. You will want to talk to people about the ending after this film. If you have not seen it, I urge you, please put the Invitation 2015 version on your list. If you want to watch the 2022 version of The Invitation and see some vampires running around and just go for it. The next film on my list is the scariest one, I think, of all of them. This is the one with more straight up and down jump scares, frightening images, creepy mood, creepy story. It is the most outlandish of them, I would say, I would wager. You're in traditional horror territory in here, but with a lot of really nice creative twists. It's The Autopsy of Jane Doe. This film came out in 2016. You can currently watch it on Netflix with a subscription, or it's available to rent on other streaming services. I watched this film late at night on a whim. I decided to stay up. My husband was going to bed and we were like, yeah, I'm gonna watch a horror film. And that was a mistake. That was a mistake, sitting there in the dark watching this film and then having to make my way, turning on every light in my house to my bed going, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. This is a story of two coroners, a father and a son, working in their mortuary, their home business, charming, and they are doing the autopsy of an unidentified female, a Jane Doe, who was brought into them. But as they're examining the body, they find strange things about the body, indicating that she wore very strange clothing. There are strange marks in places. And as they start examining the body and they delve deeper, trying to find out what has actually happened to this woman, strange occurrences start to take place in the mortuary. Which is never good. You don't want strange things happening in the house of the dead. This is a supernatural horror. You are focused on what has happened to this Jane Doe. And yeah, you do have Jane Doe, the corpse, naked, lying on the gurney. And credit to the actress in this, because it is an actress who's playing it who has to be dead for the entirety of it. You've got the interplay between the father and the son, and you've got hints of them talking about their business, father and son taking over, the son who's waiting to propose to his girlfriend. You've got nice moments of interplay and tension between them while they're still focused on doing their job right and finding out what has happened to this woman and who is she. The mortuary is in a big old building and the autopsy is taking place in the basement, and there's lots of shadows and creeping doors, and as they're moving around, just little hints of things start to happen in the periphery of their vision, in the corridors. And it only gets worse and worse and worse. You know there's dead bodies in there. You know there's things that can potentially come alive. The good thing about The Autopsy of Jane Doe is that this could have gone in such a ludicrous, over-the-top direction. And it is a supernatural horror. It is going to go to the uncanny rather than anything sort of realistic. But I felt that this film played with the tension, the creepiness of, is something going to move in the corridor? Is that a shadow? What did they see? Really nicely. You do feel tense in it, and then there are really good jump scares. There are really good moments of, oh, for God's sake, stop it. I think it's a great horror film. It absolutely does what it says on the tin and more. It delivers in terms of giving you that, if you've got a ghost story set in a mortuary, okay, well, let's go for this. And I liked the way the story unfolded about Jane Doe. I don't want to give too much away because, again, I think a lot of horror films are good if you go in blind. If you want to be scared and you also want to see Brian Cox on screen, because who doesn't want to see Brian Cox on screen, watch The Autopsy of Jane Doe. The next film, we're going into slow burn folk horror territory. This film I have to credit you guys for, because when I did my series of videos on folk horror films to enjoy, folk horror books that I love folk horror, so many people wrote that you need to watch the film You Won't Be Alone. You Won't Be Alone came out in 2019. I rented this from Apple TV. It is available for rent on other streaming services. As far as I know, in the UK, it is not free as part of a subscription, but do check this online. You Won't Be Alone is set in 19th century Macedonia, and it is told in the Macedonian language. It is the story of a shape-shifting witch and the child she claims as her own. The witch chances upon a mother and a baby and demands that she takes the baby to feed on. The mother begs the witch to let her keep her child until she is older, and then the witch can come back and claim her. The witch agrees to this, but steals the child's voice for life. Despite the mother's best efforts to hide her child away in a cave for the duration of her childhood and her teenage years, the witch does come and claim the child. The witch is cruel, is cold, is calculating, wants a companion, but is unwilling or perhaps unable to show affection or to show care to this girl that she so desperately needs. We see their interaction and the girl separating from the witch. She has learned how to shapeshift from the witch, and she uses this power to start to understand her place in the world. The place of women, the place of men, the place of children. You Won't Be Alone is a slow burn, poetic, very beautiful film in many respects. It is a great slice of folk horror. It has excellent effects, I will say, for being such a rurally set and rural in tone film. This film was so moving in ways I did not expect. For a film in a foreign language that is slow burn, that is very, as I said, it's rural, it's very beautiful, it's looking at the landscape, and a lot of the internal monologue of our protagonist, of the young girl as she becomes a woman, is very dreamlike and strange. I found it compelling because it's very effective, because everything that this girl experiences as she shapeshifts, she learns what it's like to be a person, to be a woman in that kind of society, what it would be like to be a wife subjected to beatings by your husband, expected to work and to conform and to do what a husband says. And the girl's like, okay, understanding it, but also no, and like reacting like an animal. She understands the freedom that men just have and how they're allowed to indulge in their carnal desires and their base feelings, whereas women are repressed. But then she also understands what it is to be innocent and to be loved and to be cared for as a child. You do have the backdrop of the witch all the way through. You learn what happened to the witch, you learn about her powers, and you learn about the horrors that people will have to endure and what it can take to make a monster. You Won't Be Alone is a wonderful folk horror film. As I said, it's in a foreign language. It is slow burn, but it's beautiful. You need to give yourself over to the beauty of this film. Trigger warning again, there is animal death in this film. I'm someone who hates animal death, and already there's 2 films in there that have instances of animal death. All I can say, you do not see it gratuitously. There are reasons for it. It's not very nice for anyone who is very affected by it. That's just my warning going into it. I did not feel upset or triggered by it. This is your friendly reminder that if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I would love to keep bringing you more recommendations of horror films, spooky books, spooky things in general, and there are more underrated horror films bubbling up inside of me that I'd like to share with you. I made that sound weird, but I promise mostly it's not weird on this channel. Next up, this absolute banger of discomfort, of weirdness, of religious horror, it's Saint Maud. This film came out in 2019. It is not currently available for free on streaming services, but you are able to rent or buy it from the usual places. Please check your own region. St. Maud is still a film I think about. I don't know the secret sauce that they put into this to create such a brilliantly affecting, horrifying slice of religious mania that is not over the top. St. Maud is a story of Maud, who was a former nurse but now has had a full religious conversion to Catholicism and is now completely devoted to her religion. She's working as a palliative care nurse and she's assigned a new client, Amanda, a former dancer and choreographer who lived quite a hedonistic bohemian lifestyle, but she is now terminally ill. Maud goes into her home to help her and she becomes fixated with the idea that she can save Amanda's soul. Amanda, who observes Maud with a bit of a sly humor, mocks her without knowing it, tries to indulge in her religious fanaticism, but also is living her hedonistic lifestyle in the final stages of her life, which infuriates Maud, who thinks that she's going to go to hell because of the way she's living her life. We see Maud becoming increasingly fixated in this idea of saving Amanda's soul, but also giving herself more over to religious fanaticism, increasingly unhinged in her commitment to God. Also seeing visions that Amanda might be being taken by the devil, but we're never really sure if that's in Maud's mind or if it's really happening. It's a simple film with many layers to it. You have the intimacy between Amanda and Maud, the fact that Maud is so committed to saving Amanda and what it's like to be a palliative nurse to someone at the end of their life. Amanda has same-sex relationships and she is also fascinated with Maud and she's tormenting her a little bit. And it's also challenging the way Maud sees herself as a savior, as a friend, and what does friendship look like? What does that intimacy look like? And also your relationship with God, your faith in God in the face of really, really devastating circumstances. And it's very uncomfortable to watch. The lengths that she will go to, you were just watching someone, very sadly going through this, whatever you want to call it, whether it's a revelation or whether it's full-on mental breakdown, how far she will go in her commitment to her religion. Religious horror frequently falls into the folk horror category, and I wouldn't call Saint Maud a folk horror film, but often religious horror films, they go over the top, and maybe that's what you're here for, with these sort of screaming zealots, these outlandish statements that go absolutely to show they're absolutely batshit crazy, with their fervent belief of, this is what the Lord wants, and it's people going mad and using God as an excuse to commit atrocities. Whereas this is a religious horror film where you see the effects of someone who is so devoted to religion and so devoted to saving themselves and saving others. It's a demonstration of how damaging blind faith can be, and what it means when someone who is not well gives themselves over to the idea that a higher power has better plans for them and is constantly waiting to be saved. And this is told in a film that is very dark in tone and color, not just subject matter. Where she lives is dour and decrepit. Even Amanda's house, the client, while it's got, bohemian elements to it, it was once a house of great hedonism. It's falling apart and it's becoming quite miserable because Amanda's at the end of her life and she's very resentful of it. There is no light and joy in this film, which is what Maud is desperately hopeful for all the way through it. I so loved St. Maud. I thought the tone and the subject matter absolutely hit in places that religious horror doesn't often go to. It doesn't show that quiet darkness, the dour extremities of one person, as opposed to a lot of religious horror deals with cults and people en masse and people being controlled. It's one person versus another and one person versus their God. And yeah, the ending of it, you will be staring at a wall for a while. The fifth film on my current list of underrated horror films is the 2024 Irish horror Oddity. Oddity is currently available to stream with an Amazon Prime subscription. Oddity being underrated, maybe being questionable, because I'm seeing more and more horror fans mentioning it in lists of great jump scares of all time, because it does have a couple in here. And more people are sort of talking about how good this film was from last year. It's a relatively new film. I think more people are getting onto it, but it still wasn't a huge fanfare of a film, but one that is desperately creepy, and yes, has one jump scare in it that a lot of people are saying this is going to go down in history. Oddity is the story predominantly of a blind medium, a psychic, who has a shop of curio, and she has recently suffered the loss of her sister. The film opens with the medium's sister in her new home, the beautiful new home her and her husband have built together. It's very lavish, it's very gorgeous, and she is staying there. But someone knocks on the door saying that they think someone has gone into her house and that she needs help. And in this moment, in the opening of the film, you see her wrestling with, should she let this person in? Is the person outside going to help her, or is someone in the house? She does not survive this encounter. We don't know what happens exactly, but something very frightening does happen. A year later, the dead woman's husband has moved on. He is living in the house with his new girlfriend, and everything seems to be fine. The new girlfriend is a little bit nervous around the house, but all's well, except that the sister, the blind medium of the deceased, turns up in the house wanting to talk to them. But it's not just her that's turned up in the house. She is turned up with a shipment in a huge box, and inside that box is a large wooden golem, a life-sized wooden terrifying figure that just sits in the house, and everyone's like, what? And what follows is a very tense, very creepy, slow unraveling of the mystery involving that wooden golem and other creepy ass shit that goes on in this film. That's the best description of it, because I'm not going to tell you anymore. Go into it blind and good luck to you. When I first watched Oddity, I was absolutely credited it for the brilliant jump scares. The tent scene in that, outstanding. That golem, so frightening, so much creepy imagery. I will say that I didn't think that Oddity's script was the strongest. I thought it was a little bit expositionary, and I still think it is to this day, that it's not the most nuanced. I think a bit more care could have been taken with the script. However, I did go away, I sat on it, and the film stayed with me. The film stayed with me with a great mystery, a murder mystery, a supernatural element to it, with great horror film tropes told in quite a refreshing, clean, modern way. It's a very dark film. Again, it's shadow, it's cold blue light, touches of warmth. everything is sort of, what is moving out of the corner of your eye in this house? Is it a being, a person who wants to do you harm, as alluded to in the beginning of the film? Or is there something supernatural at work? Or is something supernatural been brought into the house? You have curious objects dropped around the place, and you have a couple of really, really jump out of your seat moments in a film that is so quiet. That is so quiet and builds the tension so well. Oddity, if you've heard of it and you've heard of the jump scares, it is well worth a watch. It is very creative, inventive, and original horror film from Ireland. Ireland are producing some cracking horror films these days, and Oddity deserves all the praise that is heaped upon it. There you go, that's 5, in my opinion, underrated horror films that I definitely think are worth your time. Please let me know in the comments if you have watched any of these, if you enjoyed them. Do you think they're underrated, or do you think they're appropriately hyped and everyone needs to shut up about it? Or would you like to shout about them from the rooftops? I do have a part 2 of this series. I have 5 more films that, again, I absolutely love. I don't think enough people are talking about them. And when I say I don't think enough people are talking about them, it's because I like to babble incessantly about horror films and love to have a chat with people. So that's what I'm doing right now. You guys weigh in on the comments if you've got more underrated horror films that you would like to recommend. Films that you think deserve more praise, or maybe just didn't get the exposure compared to the big blockbusters that are out there. Or maybe you think there are some big blockbuster horror films that deserve less praise. Maybe they're overrated. Maybe that's a series we should be doing. Overrated horror films. I mean, I love most horror films. It takes a lot for me to get very annoyed at one. Please subscribe, like this video, leave a comment below, save it, and also share it with a friend or maybe to a crow to help them to learn how to speak about horror. Stay spooky, bye-bye.